This is Ken Pyle at the Connections 2012 conference with Tom Kerber from Parks Associates. Tom, we heard a lot about home control energy management this week. What were your impressions of what we heard over the last couple days?
Yeah, well, certainly the industry is very viable. It was, for many years there was a lot of people in the space, but they were just kind of trying to grow the space, and now it's real. There's realization. We have data. Parks has data on people who use the products, have the products, and home controls and energy management is now a reality. And now it's just a matter of, with all the different companies entering that space who recognize that it's a real market and it really has legs. Now it's just kind of interesting to see it evolve, see who's competing, how they're entering the space, and it's just. We got a lot of those perspectives and a lot of variety of the panels, and it was a very interesting discussion.
So I guess there is a value proposition for the consumer. What about the education of the consumer? Do they need to know how there is a value proposition? Is that still a challenge?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the things. So a lot of the channels that are more successful, at least in the early going, are the channels that have the ability to provide that education. So people, because a home control or energy management platform is not a common knowledge in the general public. Consumers need the opportunity to kind of learn and understand, become more familiar and aware of the value propositions. And so the channels like security, or Anya Denari from Ingersoll Rand mentioned that she uses the HVAC channel. Those are channels where the dealer comes down and sits across the kitchen table with the consumer and is able to show them the product, give them, answer any questions. The other thing about home automation and energy management, there's numerous use cases, and because there's hundreds of different ways you could use it, it's very difficult to kind of put it in a 30-second soundbite. And so that talking with the consumer and trying to understand which use case is most compelling to them, it really requires that kind of a more personal touch. And so those channels that have that relationship are very successful.
So it becomes a consultative sell, and it seems to me that would be a challenge in the sense that to roll it out in a mass market fast. Is that a challenge?
Absolutely. So, but the idea of the rising tide floats all ships. That the more people who enter the space and start advertising their services, and so when you have at our keynote, ATT announced that they were entering the space, and so that they're going to put some significant ad dollars behind it. ATT's been advertising for a significant period of time. They launched their product in October of 2010. So. The need for that consultative sell will decline over time as absolutely.
As it really goes viral, I suppose. Now, it was interesting too. ATT seems to have taken a slightly different approach than Verizon in terms of do it yourself, if you will. ATT is building up their own platform, it almost sounded.
Yeah, well, Verizon does have an installed option, but
I didn't mean. I meant that Verizon, in terms of how they're going about creating the platform, is a little different than AT&T's.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So Verizon is unique in a couple ways, but one is that they did not choose to integrate security, and the rationale. And we had a session with Dan Flagler over at the TIA Theater. And I asked him that question: Why did Verizon make that choice? Because AT&T, Comcast, others have included security as the security channel. And he said, well, if you look at the penetration of home security systems, is only roughly 20% of households, and so that leaves 80% that's available to him. The other thing is that there's a pretty crowded space. There's, obviously the security channel's been working that for a long time, and then you have all these big names coming in there, and so they just thought the opportunity to work that 80% was, a little more. And the other thing is that the price points. They're very competitive in terms of just a $9 a month recurring fee and less than $100 to get into it. So. It's just a different approach, a different strategy, and we'll just kind of have to see where the market takes it.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the one kind of known in this is there's a lot of unknowns, isn't there?
That's true, and that's what's so interesting. So all these panel discussions, you're trying to see how things unfold. The other thing is you always look at things from where you are, and so I like the discussions where kind of people kind of tweak the reality a little bit, and they say you consider maybe a slightly different model where it's not a subscription revenue from the consumer, but maybe it's a subscription revenue from a different source. Maybe it's ad dollars, or maybe it's from an energy provider, or maybe there's some different business models or different approaches that can really realistically get that 80% and go to mass market.
Well, it sounds like then we'll be learning new stuff next year at this event, and I know you'll be on top of it in the meantime with your reports and so forth. So appreciate your time, Tom.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thanks.